Hello and welcome to the show. Now, unfortunately, in this week's FailRace versus the community, the replay for race 1 is, non-existent. It's a shame. It was an absolutely brilliant race at the Catalonia National Circuit, and I apologise to those that took part, because I had a lot of fun racing in that one. There's lots of close action. However, sadly, at the end of that one, before we ever got to sort of the proper end race screen where it gives you options to save replays, etc., everyone got disconnected from the lobby. I don't quite know why. I don't know what caused that the mass disconnection, but yeah, nobody could save the replay. So sadly, we have no footage from that one. So we move on to our second race at the Bugatti circuit. Issues with this replay slightly as well. You will notice a few corrupt liveries around the place. I restarted this replay about 20 times to try and fix it, and this is the best we got. This has got the fewest corrupt liveries in it. It's apparently a bad day in terms of replays. Now, the cars that we were racing here as we all run up towards the second and third corner are mid-B class. You see, whenever we drive vehicles in versus community for whatever stuff, it tends to be to the very top of a class, whether it be B class, whether it be A class, C class, etc. This time, I was having the cars built so it was a 550 PI, and seeing, it was suggested by a fair few people this, and seeing if it made any difference to the all sorts of the races, to the cars, and yeah, generally just going to try something a little bit different. B class meant that the cars were still pretty fast. My Mercedes I have here was 300 horsepower at 2,500 pounds, and mine was one of the slowest in a straight line. So despite being, mid B class, there was still no lack of speed from some of the vehicles. My Mercedes turned out, I thought 300 horsepower would be enough for the straight line speed. It wasn't, but it was very, very good through the corners. Dove from a long way back to find a way past the Audi right there, up towards the front, and a very, very noisy Mazda was chasing down the Datsun of Reese. Reese decided to grace us with his Datsun-y presence in this particular race. The 510 was quick through the corners. You can see how much it can close back up under braking, but the straight line speed of the Mazda was a little bit too much, and that was kind of the two sort of schools of cars that turned up here. You either had an awful lot of grip and were fast through the corners, like my Mercedes, like the Datsun, or you were much faster in a straight line. Not necessarily bad through the corners, but certainly couldn't keep up. The Datsun again having a look, but unable to do too much. Now, there were some interesting car choices in this. I think there's a Transit a little bit further back. The Transit did struggle in terms of pace. The Range Rover was a little bit better in terms of its speed. It had plenty of straight line speed here as it battled with an Alfa Romeo 4C and an SN350Z. None of the normal collection of cars that you see racing with one another. And while the Nissan and Alfa would traditionally be faster through the corners, they both get into trouble trying to get their cars slowed down towards that second corner. That gives the Range Rover a perfect opportunity to outdrag the pair of them, although the Alfa Romeo is trying to fight back. It's a horrible kind of off-camber nasty corner to go all the way around the outside. The Alfa Romeo does keep it there. Again, can't match the Range Rover in terms of acceleration. Wants to try and get back up the inside, but there's just not quite the space there. Also, little Italian sports car doesn't really want to have a fight with a big, heavy SUV. And again, we're onto a short straight. That Range Rover will pull away. Further back, and there was, this battle of the handling cars, BMW versus Aston Martin. Yeah, struggling in terms of their straight line speed, but if they're able to run in clean air, then, they could make up lap time just by being so horrendously fast through the corners, although certainly fighting one another would not have helped them running side by side all the way through that final corner. The Aston Martin, the quicker of the pair in a straight line, but you can see how fast the Nissan and the Daytona has caught behind. The Nissan can't quite get stopped, but it was, when you look at the Aston Martin, it was massively quick in a straight line. It wasn't particularly a comparison to the rest of the field. BMW monstrous when it came to the corner, but it's all about what sort of tyre compound you choose to run the vehicles on. You run them on the higher end. I had my car running on sport tyres, and yeah, that gives them a lot of grip, but you will be limited to the amount of power that you can put in the vehicle. Still, the BMW fights to try and find a way past. It is a slightly frustrating thing when you're in the car with that better handling, because yeah, BMW holds it all the way around the outside, gets in a really good position for the exit of the corner, but just doesn't quite have the acceleration to fight with the Aston Martin. And the more they're fighting with each other, the more that it does help the Daytona a little bit with catching up to that group. I was holding on to third place, but wouldn't be for long. A Camaro, having started a fair way down the order, was busy picking up positions. Very, very fast in a straight line was the Chevy. No match for the Mercedes through the corners. I managed to fight back through turn 1, although can't quite get my car stopped into turn 2, carrying so much speed into there. Knew I had to really fight back immediately against the Chevy if I wanted to stand any chance of keeping the position. If I could, yeah, kind of keep him busy, keep him distracted, constantly fight around the twisty sections. I hoped I could slow it down enough, maybe even get the Toyota involved, but it was all a little bit futile. I could carry so much speed into the corners with the Mercedes, but it wasn't quite going to be enough, and then I got into trouble, having to then worry about battling with the purple Toyota. So, yeah, in the end, I tried. I threw everything I had at keeping the Chevy behind, but my defense would last for less than half a lap. Too fast for me around here. This little battle will actually rage on for pretty much the entirety of the race. The Alfa Romeo versus Range Rover. As I say, it's one of the more peculiar, not the most peculiar battle we would see this evening, admittedly, but certainly one of the more peculiar ones. Because, yeah, the Alfa Romeo all over the back of the Range Rover when we came through the corners, trying around the outside of the final turn. It's a lovely move by the Alfa Romeo 4C, and then we get onto the straights, and the Range Rover has that acceleration. Like, lap time wise, the cars are setting very similar lap times, and that's why you get such good racing. It's yeah, an interesting one, and this might be one of the most noticeable kind of sessions we've had in some ways with very much. I think may have given the Range Rover a little bit of a bump into that corner. The Alfa brake's so late in comparison. Might be one of the most noticeable ones that we've had in terms of a split between some sort of outright speed cars and some outright handling. Made for some certainly interesting battles. At the front, though, it was relatively plain sailing for the Mazda, having taken the lead early on. Was able to scamper up off the road and stay out of trouble to take a relatively large margin of victory around here and make an awful lot of noise in the process. Reese had been holding on for second for so long in the Datsun, but on the final lap was coming under increasing pressure from that Camaro, and try as the Datsun, much like I had to try and throw everything at the Camaro to slow him down for any length of time. And yeah, the handling cars just didn't have an answer. The Camaro was too fast through the corners for us to make enough time to get away from it when it came to the straight. So a good move from the Camaro in the end to jump up to second place. And a thoroughly enjoyable race, this one. I despite my car's obvious deficiencies in terms of straight line speed, I had a lot of fun racing in the various battles. Reese would finish third, my Mercedes in fourth ahead of the Toyota GT86. The Range Rover would continue being in battles for pretty much the entirety of the race. Would finally get the job done on the Alfa Romeo. I think Alfa made a little mistake and dropped back. Had an Aston Martin for company. There is the Alfa Romeo. Had an Aston Martin for company on the final lap, but again it was a similar story out of the final corner. Aston Martin could carry the quarter speed. Range Rover would have the acceleration and keep them, I think, about 8th place in this race. So yeah, good showing from that Range Rover. On to our final race, our third race, I can count. We would head out to the Yas Marina circuit in some glorious nights. It's been a long time actually since we've done a night race, and Yas is about the only one I can use in versus community, certainly in terms of replays, simply because the, well, there's floodlights around here. All the other circuits are far, far too dark. There is the usual busyness, shall we say, around sort of turn 1, turn 2 area. It's a big straight filtering into quite a narrow chicane, but most of the vehicles making their way through there relatively clean. This Ferrari tries to get to the inside. Kind of everybody runs out a little bit of space through that double apex corner. It's a very fast corner. It is a very nasty corner in places as well. And yeah, everyone getting a little bit stacked up through there. No, again, no major harm though done as the cars filter underneath the hotel for the first time. The Ferrari busy looking for a way past the Toyota. There's a Monaro that has made up a bunch of places. Now for me, I started from pole in this race. This was never going to be a track that my Mercedes would particularly like around here. While it is quick through some of these sort of mid-section of the lap, the Shelby Cobra was a lot faster than me in a straight line. Now the Shelby has practically no PI to play with when you build it to a mid-B class. It's a fairly standard Shelby, but the sheer power, the sheer acceleration of that car was far too much for my Mercedes to really do anything about it. As we come down to turn 1, you will see how good the Gullwing was under brakes. See how far away that Cobra had got and how much I can make up as we get through the corners. But as we come out of the first chicane, I am immediately on the bumper of the Cobra, but he's always just going to pull away as soon as we get onto any sort of straight. If I could have sort of kept fighting him through the corners and got ahead and having to keep making him repass me, I thought maybe I stood a chance. But again, much like with the Camaro, the Shelby was just fast enough through the corners that I didn't quite have anything to fight him with. We saw the Monaro getting himself into a little bit of trouble on lap 1, but was keen to recover his way through the field, battling with a Lotus. Lotus with a fairly mighty wing. Lotus having a look, having a sniff at any opportunities around that first corner, but nothing to quite make the most of. Up ahead, the Daytona and Toyota far too busy fighting one another, and it is going to be the Holden thinks about going around the outside, isn't actually quite far enough alongside to get the pass done as they all fire into the next corner. It was certainly plenty busy enough in this section as the Toyota, the Lotus is trying to carry corner speed and is catching out other cars because the Lotus can just carry so much speed through these places. Toyota ends up with a little bit of a chain reaction. Toyota gets spat a little bit sideways, recovers and carries on. Still the Holden is looking. The Toyota is very fast into this final corner. Is the Holden to the inside as they run out of the final turn here, but hasn't got the straight line speed of that Daytona. Might just about have the straight line speed on the Celica though. Back to the front, and it was a Porsche that was leading the way. However, gradually being caught by the Shelby. And it wouldn't be long before that mighty Cobra would be putting the little Porsche under pressure as we round the final corner onto the start-finish straight. Now, the Porsche was significantly faster than my Mercedes in terms of straight-line speed, but even that didn't have an answer for the Cobra as we run down towards the first corner. Porsche would go very defensive into turn 1. Parks the car, well, just about where he wants it to be, although if you take too tighter a line, you are a little bit slow on the exit, of the corner. You can see once you're out of position for one part of that chicane, you're out of position for the next, for the third part, and then you end up just being slow off of the corner. And that gives the Cobra an opportunity. They give each other plenty of space as they run into the double apex corner. The Porsche across the curve actually gets himself fired up on two wheels, and in the end, the 914 just doesn't have the speed to quite fight with the Shelby. Now, this is all helping me out here. I had fallen a little bit back from these two cars, but as soon as they started fighting, immediately the Mercedes is back in contention as we run all in a train up towards the final corner. Porsche actually gets a big wiggle across a curb. I have to then try and look around the outside, which is not where I wanted to put the car. Either way, it helps the Shelby just consolidate that lead and get a little bit of safety. The Dodge Charger was actually very unlucky. He put a wheel on the curb under braking into the first corner and got his car spun around. It's a horrible curb on the kind of exit of the pit lane. And yeah, the Charger got spun round, had a lot of work to do to try and make his way through the field. Skyline gets himself in trouble running out wide, and as soon as that door is opened, the muscle car is looking for a way past, and the Skyline I think was another stupidly fast car in terms of straight line speed, but some of them were, you know, struggling through the corners. You have too much power and too little grip. You're going to have slower lap times than a car like mine that isn't that great down the straights, but can carry the quarter speed. Now, I mentioned the Range Rover versus 4C being one of the weirder battles we had today. This, though, would be the most peculiar of the lot. Yes, that is a modern Ford Raptor racing against a Ferrari 250 California. Because, and a shiny gold Ferrari as well, because why not? The Ferrari frantically looking for a way past a Raptor that was actually doing a relatively decent job in terms of lap time. Not quite as fast as the cars running at the front as you might expect, but it certainly wasn't plummeting through the order either, and it was doing a good old job of fending off the Ferrari. California has a big dive into the final corner, trying to get a move completed, but it was a very big dive. But in the end, couldn't stop the car in time, runs wide on the exit. A brilliant cutback from the Raptor would keep him ahead. And the Ford had enough straight lines, but it wasn't so horrendously fast in his straight line to completely run away, but it was fast enough that he could fend off. And of course, Raptor very wide, could fend off from that Ferrari. Another vehicle that was having a bit of a tough time with the old lack of straight line speed. The BMW was had so many cars around him, couldn't really make the most of the handling when it came to the corners, and then when he comes to the straight, gets mugged by just about everything. It's, yeah, when you get stuck in a battle like this, you can, if you can't get clear, you can get in trouble fairly quickly. The Clio just comes soaring straight past. The BMW is being very much left for dead. The Mini is catching down here, although the BMW will then go and catch through the corners once more. At the front, and it would be the Shelby Cobra that would go on to claim a victory. It haven't got to the lead. It was a little bit faster than both me and the Porsche, and as soon as we started fighting one another, that allowed the Cobra to run away and take certainly not the biggest margin of victory we have seen, but yeah, a relatively comfortable victory. I spent many laps staring at the back of a Porsche, unable to find a way past. About every lap I could get close at this final corner. I could draw alongside this final corner, but at no point was I ever close enough that by the time we got to turn 1, for example, to have a go. I basically spent all of the mid-section of the lap catching for the Porsche and then pull the gap. It was a fun race. The Wagoneer also did a great job to get a 4th place in this one. It was a fun race. It was slightly infuriating at times, but on the whole, it was, yeah, an enjoyable race for the Mercedes. So, mid-class builds for these vehicles were actually very, very good fun. We had 3 of some of the best races that we've had in Versus Community for quite some time. It was a shame that yeah, the first replay didn't save at the Catalonian National Circuit. Mercedes worked a lot better around there, and it was an absolutely brilliant race. There was a lot of overtaking, there was a lot of overtaking, a lot of close battles in all of these though. So I would say the mid-class stuff was a very much resounding success. That, though, is going to be it for this video. The next Versus the Community is going to be on Thursday, the 22nd of June. We are going to be going racing on Dirt 4. If you would like to sign up and take part in that, we're going to do some sort of rallycross, maybe have a go with some Land Rush, I'll see. If you want to sign up and take part in that, then you can via our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and you can sign up in there. That, though, is going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.